Get out. The words cut through the humid Miami evening like a blade. Annalise Williams clutched her newborn daughter against her chest, the baby's tiny breaths warm against her skin as she stared at the man she had once believed would love her forever. Daniel Aiden, her husband of 3 years, couldn't even look at her. His gaze was fixed on the gleam of the Rolex she had sacrificed months of her teaching salary to buy, as if the watch carried more weight than the family standing in front of him. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. "What did you just say?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "You heard me. Pack your things. This isn't working anymore." The baby whimpered, sensing the storm rising in the room. Annalise's free hand instinctively shielded her daughter's face. In that moment, her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind, a voice steeped in the strength of Jamaican women who had endured hurricanes, poverty, betrayal, and survived it all. "Never let them see you break, girl. Not even when the world tries to break you." Her accent slipped back into its natural rhythm, thick and undeniable. "Not working for who, Daniel? For you? Or for the blonde girl I saw leaving this house 20 minutes ago?" His eyes flickered, guilty and defensive all at once. "Her name is Madison. And yes, she was here. She understands me. She supports my vision." Annalise laughed, sharp and bitter. "Supports your vision? You mean the vision I created? The business plan I wrote? The permits I secured through my father's contacts? The nights I stayed up until dawn while you dreamed of empires? That vision." Daniel flinched, but his pride held firm. "This is about more than us. It's about where I'm going." "And where exactly is that, Daniel?" Annalise whispered, her voice low and lethal. "Because wherever you think you're going, I promise you one thing. You won't find peace at the end of that road." The baby stirred again, and Annalise kissed her forehead, making herself a silent V. Annalise stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by the very thing she had chosen. Every chair, every piece of art, every photograph that told the story of a life she thought they were building together. The walls seemed to close in, mocking her with reminders of promises Daniel had already broken. Her voice cracked, but her spirit did not. "And our daughter, Daniel? Is she part of the everything else you're so ready to throw away?" He shifted uncomfortably, refusing to meet her gaze. "You can take her. Take what you need for her. Clothes, toys, whatever. But everything else stays here." For a moment, the air in the room stilled. Annalise felt her blood run cold. "Her name," she said firmly, stepping forward so that he could not avoid her eyes, "is Zara Simone Williams Aiden. Your daughter. She is not just everything else. She is your blood. Your legacy." "My legacy," Daniel snapped, his voice dripping with arrogance, "will be built with someone who understands what I'm trying to accomplish." Madison gets it. She sees the bigger picture. Annalise's laughter rose again, sharp and merciless, though tears threatened to betray her strength. "You think legacies are built on skin color, youth, and admiration? No, Daniel. Legacies are built on character. And that's something you've just proven you don't have." Daniel's face twisted, but he said nothing. He only gestured toward the staircase, his impatience showing. "I want you out by tomorrow." Annalise clutched Zara closer. The baby's tiny hand pressed against her heart, as if to remind her who she was fighting for. Without another word, she turned toward the stairs. Each step felt heavy, final, like nails being hammered into the coffin of a life she had sacrificed everything to create. At the top of the stairs, she paused, looked back at him one last time, and whispered, "You think you've won, but you've just declared war. And Daniel, you have no idea who you're fighting." Then she disappeared into. Upstairs, the bedroom felt like a graveyard of broken promises. The silk sheets on the bed still carried Daniel's cologne, mixed now with the faintest trace of another woman's perfume. Annalise's stomach twisted, but she forced herself to focus. Zara lay asleep in the crib beside the bed, her small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm, unaware of the storm raging around her. Annalise brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead and whispered, "It's just you and me now, baby girl. But don't you worry. We come from women who know how to survive. And more than that, we know how to thrive." She opened the closet and pulled down 2 suitcases, each one heavier than her heart. She packed slowly, carefully, making choices no new mother should ever be forced to make. A few clothes, baby essentials, documents she couldn't risk leaving behind. Her eyes lingered on the family photographs framed on the dresser, smiles frozen in time, lies sealed in glass. She turned the frames face down. Downstairs, a door slammed. She didn't know if Daniel had left the house or just the room, but she realized it no longer mattered. His absence had started long before tonight. As she folded the last of Zara's blankets, Annalise felt something shift inside her. The grief was there, yes, sharp and suffocating. But beneath it stirred a strength she hadn't tapped into since her days back in Jamaica, when her grandmother would tell stories of the hurricane that nearly took her life. The wind can tear at the trees, but a Williams woman bends without breaking, her grandmother used to say. Annalise closed the suitcase and zipped it with steady hands. Daniel thought he was casting her aside, stripping her of everything she had helped him build. But what he didn't realize was that he had freed her. He had handed her the chance to reclaim her power, her name, and her destiny. She lifted Zara into her arms, kissed her daughter's cheek, and whispered again, "We will rise from this." And when he yes. 6 months later, the Coral Gables mansion was a memory, replaced by a cramped studio in Little Haiti with peeling paint and creaky floorboards. The air smelled faintly of mildew, but it was home for now. Annalise rocked Zara on her knee as she stared at the eviction notice taped to the front door, its bold red letters flapping in the humid breeze like a taunt. She whispered to her daughter, "Mama's going to figure this out, baby girl. I promised you that night, and I don't break promises." The irony was cruel. Just half a year ago, she had been a wife in a $4 million home, running behind-the-scenes numbers for a multi-million-dollar resort chain. Now she stood on the edge of homelessness, surviving on food stamps and the last few dollars she had hidden before Daniel froze their joint accounts. It was exactly the outcome he wanted. Her defeated, humiliated, erased. But Annalise had no intention of being erased. Her phone buzzed on the table. A text from her sister in Kingston lit the cracked screen. "Daddy's asking about you again. Says the offer still stands." The memory of that conversation burned fresh. 3 weeks after Daniel had thrown her out, she'd finally called her father, Emmanuel Williams, expecting anger. Instead, his deep voice had wrapped around her with quiet authority. "Come home, my daughter. Bring my granddaughter. Let me take care of you." But Annalise had refused. Not because she didn't love her father, but because she needed to prove something, not just to him, but to herself and to Daniel. If she returned to Jamaica now, Daniel would dismiss every triumph as her father's doing. She wanted her success to be undeniable, built on her own strength, not as anyone's charity. Still, as she bounced Zara gently, exhaustion pressed down on her. The studio was too small, the world too cruel, and her resources too thin. She whispered again, "We'll find a way." And just then, a knock echoed on the door. Annalise's heart jumped. She wasn't expect. Annalise opened the door cautiously, her baby perched on her hip. On the other side stood Carmen Reyes, her neighbor from across the hall. Carmen was in her 50s, with streaks of silver in her dark hair and a presence that radiated authority. She had become more than a neighbor in recent months. She was an ally, sometimes even a lifeline. Carmen's eyes flicked immediately to the eviction notice. "Mija, what happened?" Annalise's throat tightened. "The landlord says I'm 3 weeks behind on rent. But I paid him. I have the receipt." "Let me see." Carmen extended her hand. Annalise retrieved the crumpled paper from a table. Carmen studied it, her sharp lawyer's eyes narrowing. Her face darkened with anger. "This son of a snake. He's been doing this to all the single mothers in the building. Takes the money, doesn't record it, then files for eviction. By the time you can prove you paid, he's already replaced you with tenants willing to pay more." The betrayal struck Annalise like another punch. She had trusted the landlord, even helped his mother with her medical paperwork when she couldn't understand the forms. The thought that he had used her kindness against her lit a fire inside her chest. "Can we fight it?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. Carmen's shoulders sagged. "We can try, but it'll take months." "You don't have months." She hesitated, then added, "But there might be another option." Annalise's eyes narrowed. "What kind of option?" "My nephew, Luis. He runs a small marketing firm downtown. Nothing fancy, but he needs someone who can handle clients, speak multiple languages, and think fast. The pay isn't much, but there's an apartment above the office you could live in." A flicker of hope pierced the gloom. Annalise tightened her hold on Zara. "What would I be doing?" "Client relations. Helping businesses build their brand presence. Honestly, you'd be perfect for it." It wasn't the empire she'd once envisioned, but it was a SD. The next morning, Annalise strapped Zara into her carrier and took the bus downtown. The city's chaos pressed in on her from every angle. Traffic horns, vendors shouting, the humid air thick with exhaust. She clutched the slip of paper with Luis's address, silently rehearsing what she would say. This wasn't just an interview. This was survival. Tropical Vision Media turned out to be a converted warehouse in Wynwood, painted with bright murals of Caribbean birds and flowers. It didn't look like much, but when Annalise stepped inside, she felt a spark of possibility. Desks were crowded with laptops, coffee cups, and sticky notes. The energy was messy but alive. Luis Reyes was waiting in his office, a man in his early 30s with kind eyes and a warm smile that reminded her of Carmen. He shook Annalise's hand firmly. "My aunt says you're sharp. Let's see if she's right." The interview was brief but intense. Luis flipped through her resume, eyebrows rising at the credentials she had carefully downplayed. Harvard MBA, 5 years of business development, fluent in English, Spanish, and Patois. "Honestly, you're overqualified for what I'm offering." Annalise didn't flinch. Sometimes overqualified is exactly what a growing business needs. Luis leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You've got a point. When can you start?" Relief washed through her. Today, the apartment above the office was small, a studio with a kitchenette and a bathroom barely big enough for one person. But it was clean and safe. More importantly, it was hers. For the first time since Daniel had cast her out, Annalise felt a faint sense of stability. The work came naturally. Within weeks, she was handling client accounts Luis had been struggling with for months. Her background gave her an edge. Her cultural fluency made her invaluable, and her warmth won over skeptical clients. Luis often shook his head in amazement. "You make it look easy." But inside, Annalise wasn't just working. She was. 3 months into the job, Annalise had almost begun to believe she could breathe again. Zara was thriving, laughing more each day, and the tiny apartment above the office had started to feel like a safe haven. The walls were still bare, but they echoed with the sound of hope instead of despair. Then one night, while finishing a client proposal long after Luis had left, Annalise heard voices drifting up through the floorboards. At first, she ignored them, but something in the tone, sharp, tense, pulled her to the staircase. "I told you I can't do that," Luis said. His voice was tight, almost pleading. A second man's reply was colder. "This comes from the top. Your aunt vouched for you. Don't make her regret it." Annalise froze. The stranger's words carried a weight she recognized, the kind of weight that came from men who held power far beyond a marketing firm. "What does this have to do with Annalise?" Luis asked. Her stomach dropped. "She used to be married to Daniel Aiden," the man said flatly. "The same man who's been undercutting our hotel operations in Jamaica. The same man who's cost us millions. We can't take risks." Luis's protest was immediate. "She's divorced. She wants nothing to do with him." "Maybe, but information has a way of traveling. If she stays, your business doesn't." Footsteps followed, then the heavy slam of the front door. Silence returned, but Annalise's heart pounded. She sank onto the stairs, clutching Zara tighter, her mind racing. Daniel's shadow was reaching for her even here. She had escaped his betrayal only to find herself tangled in something darker. Whoever that man was, he wasn't talking about boardroom politics. He was talking about survival. The next morning, Luis couldn't meet her eyes as he handed her a check. "I'm sorry, Annalise. Business is slow. I have to let you go." She accepted the lie with quiet grace. She had learned enough to recognize when truth was too dangerous to speak aloud. But inside, a new vow was,